Hey guys, this is future Miranda. I know at the beginning of this video I said it was late, but it turns out it's super duper late, like a few months late. I just didn't have a chance to edit and get the video up between school starting and all this stuff. I barely had time to even sit down and read like I used to. So it's late, but it's better late than never. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about the books I read for Koreadathon. I know I'm late. I know I'm pretty damn late on this. But your girl had a lot going on. We had Koreadathon, then we had a reading rush, and then I had my boyfriend breathing down my neck to read A Hero Born, and then we had Read-A-thon, the Canadian readathon. So it's been busy, it's been hectic, and this is my second time filming this video because my first one was just, it was weak and I had to redo it. So for Koreadathon, I have my little bullet journal here. I made a little spread for it. Now this spread was heavily inspired by journaling with Chloe, but I added my own little to it. So I have what we did, and then the books I read, and I wasn't able to make a Korean recipe, but I did watch a Korean movie. I watched Train to Busan, but more on that later. Now that I showed you my cute little spread, let's talk about the books that I read. All right. So of course So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to give a little summary of the book and my feelings on it, and then I'm going to go into a more spoilery review so I can talk about that. So if you don't want to hear that, I'll leave like a notification or something that says this is spoiler territory and give you the timestamps so you can skip them. All right. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Silence of Bones, which was the group book, and I really enjoyed this book. Okay, so I'm not usually one to read mystery or thriller books, which I would kind of consider this one a mystery book. But this was the group book, and it was something I had wanted to read before Koreadathon. This just gave me the excuse to go pick it up, and I loved this book. I think I gave this book like 5 stars. Yeah, I ended up giving this book 5 stars. So it is about Seol, or a girl named Seol, and she ends up becoming, I can't remember what they called them, but basically she's an indentured servant for the police department, and it's also set in, I think, 1800. Yeah, 1800 Joseon, so Korea before it was Korea. And it's about her work in this police agency and her journey to find out what the heck's going on. I love this book. I loved the characters. I feel like they were very fleshed out and done well, and this book really had me hooked. I kept wanting to know what was going on and what was going to happen next and the answer to this crazy mystery. All right, so that being said, I'm about to get into spoiler territory. Oh my goodness. So this book, so of course, whenever they flaunt the little character that's like, they may be dead, but you didn't actually see them die, so they're not confirmed dead. You know they're going to come back, and that's exactly what happened with her brother, all right? Because there were some little, hints that, ooh, this man, he's talking about this, what is his freaking name? Her brother, who was the police captain. Han, I want to say it was, or something. What is his fucking name? Inspector Han. Yeah. So there was a little bit of hint, like, oh, Inspector Han has a little sister that he doesn't know what happened to. Oh, Seol has a big brother and she doesn't know what happened to him. But then, of course, whenever it finally did the reveal, I was just like, oh. I love that. I love a good like familia reveal, all that stuff. So I was just so happy. And then just he died, but then I liked it because at the end there was that saying that was like his little sister was true to him till the end. That hit me right here, and oh my goodness. And I also felt like with this book I did learn more about what was going on in this time, because I didn't know about the persecution of the Christians and things like that. Did not know that happened. But another thing I really liked about this is, like I said, I'm not too big into mystery, but I felt like this was such a different take on the mystery genre. Like, I've never come across a book that has, like, a mystery book that was set in, in Joseon in the 1800s, like, back before electricity and everything, and they're using bow and arrows, and I loved it. Like, I loved it a lot. I thought the setting was wonderful, and I really felt like I was there with her. I love the familia bonds. Even though they didn't know they were brother and sister till the end, like, just you could tell the two of them loved their sibling. So whenever they finally reunited, it was amazing. And then the ending when she went back to live with her sister, and she was bored as heck, and then all of a sudden she gets the invitation to come back, and she's like, oh fuck yeah, like, screw farming, like, I'm coming and doing what I love. And I love that, like, following in her brother's footsteps. This is one of those books that, like, it'd be cool to get a sequel to see how she ends up, but it's also just such a great standalone. I loved it. And okay, speaking of books that have good familia bonds, I read a second book. Please excuse my nail, it is broken. I read a second book that also has a brother-sister bond, and this was for Read a Book with Korean Mythology. Now, at first, I was very hesitant to read this book because it's considered middle grade, and I wasn't like, I kept telling myself, like, I don't want to read a middle grade book, like, that's meant for younger viewers, and I was wrong, okay? I stand corrected. I was truly deeply wrong, and I apologize to this author, this book, and everyone who loves this book, because this book was phenomenal. Like, I loved The Silence of Bones, and I loved two of these other books I read, but this one, oh my god, it ties for top one of my favorites. I love this book, and that was Dragon Pearl. So this book is about this girl. What is her name? Min. I'm sorry, her name is Min. And so her and her family are gumihos. And they are, the fox spirits and everything. They can shapeshift and have a little bit of magic to them, a little bit of charm. That's what they call their magic in the book. And it mixes these mythological elements with sci-fi elements, and it blew me away. Like, going in, I was like, okay, yeah, this pretty cover, cool story, like, interesting how it would mix sci-fi and fantasy. Love that. But I didn't have high expectations, but this blew it out the water. This book was so good, and it's such a quick, easy read. It's about 300 pages, but it's just constantly something happening. I love this book so much that my boyfriend saw it sitting in my pile of books. He's like, oh, what's this? He investigated, and I got him hooked into reading it. He's only like 50 pages in, but already he's like, I love this book because it's so good. So basically, Min is a gumiho, and her brother was in like their version of the armed forces. I can't remember what it's called. It's like the Space Cadets or something. No, I don't think it's called the Space Cadets, but Space Forces. And her brother goes missing, and everything seems really sketchy, and she's like, I don't know about all that. That doesn't sound like my brother. So, of course, she has to go and investigate. And this book, 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. All right, now begins the spoiler part. The ending of this book. The ending of this book. Oh, my God, I loved it, okay? So I was so upset when she found the ghost of her brother, because I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, he's dead? After everything she's gone through, he's dead? But then you got those little hints in there with the little ghost that she was pretending to be, the boy. I can't remember what his freaking name was. But, sorry, I read all of these at the beginning of July. So, it is now the beginning of August when I'm filming this. So, it's been a month, you know. I haven't retained all the details, but we're working on it. We're going to make it through this. So, whenever the little boy she was impersonating was like, yeah, ghosts can go anywhere, you're like, what? And it's one of those things that gets planted in your mind, but you don't recognize its importance until the end. And when her brother was like, I'm a ghost, but you know, I can still travel around with you. Come on, join the Space Forces. I'll be like your companion, you know, I'm a ghost. Like, I can still go do stuff, I can hang. I was so excited because I was expecting, you know, to put him to rest and him like a heartfelt goodbye. But instead, he continued on with her. So now they can live. Well, him's not really living, but they can go and do what they planned, and they can go and visit all of the planets. And I was so happy about that. Oh my God. And then the elements, just the fantastical elements, like the Gumihos, the tigers, the dragon, the weather dragons, or I think they were just dragons, and then like the goblins. Oh, those were so well weaved together with the science fiction elements that it was phenomenal. I've never read anything like this that combined fantasy and science fiction, but it blew it out the water. And what I really enjoyed is the scenes that were on the spaceship and with the space stuff. I kind of think the author may have been a little inspired by Star Trek, because there were definitely some similar language between the two, and that made me happy because I love Star Trek. So just seeing that inspiration there, ooh, I loved it. Oh my goodness, so good. But yeah, so Dragon Pearl, would highly recommend. Fun, easy read. Oh, all right. So next, I read a book translated from Korean. Okay, now this book is the contender with Dragon Pearl for top book, because Dragon Pearl was a very fun adventure of a read and something I just genuinely enjoyed. And like, it wasn't too super deep, so I didn't have to like think about it or get emotional. It was just, I'm along for the journey and I'm loving it. But this book made me feel some kind of way, all right? I felt it in my heart and soul. I would turn on my like lo-fi study beats while I read this and just went into this new emotional state of just like, it's hard to describe, but I don't think a novel's ever made me feel like that, as corny as that sounds, and I loved it. It's something that I hope to experience in the future with novels, but this just like touched something deep inside of me. And that book is Almond. All right, so for starters, one of the things I love about this book, let me tell you what it's about first. So his name is Yoon. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm trying my best. And basically he has the brain condition called, bear with me, alexithymia. So basically his amygdala, which are the thing in our head or in our brain that makes us feel fear and anger and things like that. Well, his is a little messed up. And he doesn't feel emotions like other people does. Like, he doesn't get scared like normal people do, and he doesn't get sad. And then tragedy strikes, and his mother and grandmother who were raising him, and his mother was like his feelings coach. She would like train him into like recognizing how people are feeling and their emotions based on their facial features and their body language. Since he couldn't exactly understand what they were feeling, he had to basically fake it till he made it. Faked it till he made it. Till he made it. Fake it till you make it. That's what I'm trying to say. That was hard. But yeah, so he's just trying to fit in, and he's not too concerned with fitting in, but his mom really wants him to, because at first people were starting to notice how weird he was because he wasn't reacting how they would react. But then once he caught on with the feelings, he was able to just kind of blend in and go by unseen, which is what his mother wanted for him. She wanted him to be normal. Well, tragedy strikes, and his mother and grandmother are murdered in front of him, and everything just goes kind of downhill from there. What I really liked about this, it focuses on his relationship with a misfit named Gon, and it's this new kid at school who's kind of a little rabble-rouser, and at first they butt heads pretty hard, and Gon is pretty mean to the main character, but eventually they become friends, and I really enjoyed this friendship because, yeah, they butted heads at first, but you could tell that Gon was actively, after they made up and everything, trying to be friends with the main character. And I loved that because the main character is just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just sitting here existing. And Gon is like coming to his bookshop because the main character inherited the bookshop from his deceased mother. And he's coming into the bookshop, talking, being not necessarily friendly because, you know, they're teenage guys. He's a little rabble-rouser. He's being his sassy little self. And just watching them grow closer, I loved it. And then to add to that, their relationship was definitely my favorite, but to add to that, the fact that there was a little bit of a romantic interest in there, I enjoyed it because I felt like it wasn't very heavy. The focus was more on the boys' friendship rather than the main character falling in love with this girl. And I really appreciated that because I felt like it added to the story but wasn't the main focus. All right, spoiler time. So his mom didn't fully die. She was in a coma, and then when she woke up at the end, I was so happy. Now, I'm a psych major, so this book was vastly interesting to me. I didn't do too much research on the disease I'd never heard, or the condition. I'd never heard of it. That's not something we learned in psychology, but we did learn about the amygdala, so I had the basic understanding. So having this fiction tale that I enjoyed so much weaved in with some psychology, I really liked that. Like, I really, really was into that because it's like, you know, a field I know about and I'm interested in, and it was definitely good for me. So being that I don't know too much about this disease or this condition, towards the end, he began feeling emotions again after he rescued Gon. I don't necessarily know if that's how it works, because whenever it comes to like sociopaths and psychopaths, they don't just flip a switch and boom, now they're feeling, or they don't gradually ease into it. Their brains are hardwired differently from the start. So I don't know how realistic it was for him to all of a sudden gradually start feeling emotions. However, in certain books, psychology that is incorrect has made me angry. A good example is Supermarket. The way bipolar depression was replicated in that book, it just pissed me off because it was written by someone who clearly does not understand or did not do enough research about how bipolar works and how the struggle of it and overcoming it. This book, I feel like the author definitely did their research, but as far as if that's actually how the condition works, I do not know. However, unlike Supermarket, this book, even if that's not how the condition works, I gave it a pass because I loved this book so much. Again, another short, easy read, a little heavier on the topics, but I loved it. This is definitely a book I would reread, and it's a contender for one of my favorite books of the year. Between this, The Way of Our Sky, and Count of Monte Cristo, this is up there. So I guess this would be my number one favorite I've read, and Dragon Pearl would have to be number 2 just because I love this book so much. All right, the next book I read was Read a Book with a Person on the Cover. Now, this was a book, again, that I had already wanted to read, and thankfully Koreadathon gave me an excuse for it. And that was The Girl with 7 Names, An Escape from North Korea. So it is about this author, Hyeon-Seo Lee, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I really enjoy your work, though. And it's her Defector story. And it is a memoir. One of the problems I have with memoirs, and I found this out because in July I read 2 memoirs, is they're very dense. It's hard to explain. They're very dense, and there's not as much dialogue and description of what's going on as you would see in a fictional work. So, and I just feel like a lot of information is put at you. That's how I feel about biographies too. And sometimes I can think it's overwhelming because you're getting so much, and I feel like I go through them a lot slower. But regardless of that, I still loved this book. Reading her story, because I strictly read it, was so inspirational. Like, oh my God, the things she went through to get to where she is, oh my goodness, it had my jaw dropping. Yeah, so I guess now I'll begin the spoiler part. I don't know if this really I guess this is considered spoilers. Because I mean, obviously she escaped because it says on the title, but I'll get more into detail of what happened. So when she finally made it over, not even just when she made it over, just throughout the book, just when you think things are good, they're settled down, something else is thrown your way. Like, all right, she escaped North Korea. What about her mom and brother? Oh, her mom doesn't want to leave. Oh, they escaped. Oh, now they're in prison. Like, the journey she had to take to get her and her family to safety, it was, oh my goodness. And then the fact that her brother was thinking about going back and all that stuff, it was a whirlwind of a read. But I'm so thankful I read it, because I didn't know as much about North Korea. I've read a few books like Almond and If I Had Your Face about Korea that take place in the modern day, about South Korea. And of course, I know a little bit about North Korea. I live in America, so we're given a little bit of info about it, but it's not something we heavily really focus on in school or anything. So I only kind of knew what I saw in the news and things, and of course that's what we know is completely different from what's happening there. And just, wow, I learned a lot about that the country, and I didn't know. And all of her time in North Korea was in the 90s, because the millennial happened when she was out of North Korea. And I don't know how much they've changed in the past 20 years, but oh my word. Reading this book just made me more interested in the stories of these defectors and the trials and tribulations they have to go through to get out, and their perseverance to get that shit done. My goodness. Such a great book. 5 out of 5 stars. All right. Okay. And the last book I read for Koreadathon. Read a book featuring a diaspora Korean character, which is just a character who is Korean and no longer lives in Korea. The book I read was Edinburgh. Fucking hated this book, okay? I don't like to be a negative Nancy. I don't. All right? I don't want to hate on people's hard work, because they put their heart and soul into these books. But this is a book that shouldn't have been made, all right? I have a whole video talking about how much I dislike this book, because I've never been, of course, there's books I get angry at the villain or the main character for being stupid or doing this when I was like, you should have done this, or being selfish. But this book does not need to exist, okay? Like I said, I'm not going to go too into it. I'll give the rundown of it, but honestly, this book, if I could have given it 0 stars, I would. And again, I hate being so damn negative about it, but I wouldn't recommend this book to my worst enemy. It genuinely made me uncomfortable, which is a lot said, because I am a horror movie fanatic. I love the gory, crazy shit in horror movies, like seeing people get chopped up and shit. But this genuinely disturbed me within the first 30 pages. And then after that, I just wanted to stop reading it. I was too stupid, and I didn't stop reading it. All right. So the concept for this book, however, is a great concept. I will admit that. Okay, so it is about this 12-year-old boy. He goes by Fee. His father is Korean, and he's from Korea, and they come and they live in America, so he's American, Korean American. And whenever he was young, he was only 12 years old, he's in the choir, and the choir teacher is a pedophile, and he does nasty things to the children. And let me just clarify, my problem with this book doesn't stem from the fact that there's pedophilia in it. That's because that's something that happens in our world, and the more we know about it, the more light we can shine on it, the more we can work to fix it and prevent it. My problem with this book that stems from the pedophilia nature was the fact that it got too descriptive at parts. And I did not like that. I talked to several people, my mom, my dad, my friends, my boyfriend, my coworkers, about it, and I just think that portions of it were very unnecessary to the story, and the details did not need to be included. All right, so director's a pedophile, and so Fee grows up, and one of his friends who unfortunately got molested, ends up killing himself, other tragedy strikes, and he's just coping with this and how he's dealing with what he went through as a child as well as these losses. And like I said, an amazing concept, and I think it could have been tackled very well. I think it could have been a beautiful story, but between the detailed pedophilia, the need for the writing to be more condensed, and just the fact that the story just didn't get better by the end. I hated the ending. I did not like this book. So, if you want to see my spoilery thoughts on that, I made an entire video on it because, like I said, I genuinely did not enjoy this book. Alright, so like I said, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a Korean recipe, but hopefully I can maybe do that in the future because I often like to cook with my boyfriend, so maybe we can make something fun and jazzy. But I was able to watch a Korean movie that I watched with my boyfriend. Okay, so we watched Train to Busan, and I had heard great things about this movie. I really wanted to watch it, so he watched it with me. And how you know this movie is good is because, okay, so I enjoy anime. Normally I prefer the dubbed over the sub, but I'll sit down, I'll watch a sub movie or show. My boyfriend, well, he doesn't really like sub things, but he sat through and paid attention to this entire movie. It was so good. So if you don't know, Train to Busan is about this father and daughter, and it's in the middle of, I suppose it's the beginning of the zombie apocalypse, and they are on a train, which is one of the scarier places to be when zombies outbreak, especially when they're the quick zombies. They're not the like, I'm walking slow kind of zombies. They're the I'm gonna run and tackle you kind of zombies, and that on a confined little train is terrifying. But this movie, I loved it. Yes, it's in the horror genre, but oh my god, the emotions I felt during this movie, I loved it. I loved this so much. The relationship between the dad and daughter, because I'm a like daddy's girl. Like, I love my dad to death, and I always grew up as like daddy's girl. So watching his interactions with her and his need to protect her and the emotional, development the father goes through, multiple times this movie had me bawling, crying. And oh my god, and there's supposed to be a sequel coming out. I think it's coming out this month. I don't know how it's going to work with COVID and everything. I heard it's coming to Shudder, I want to say in January. I'm scared the sequel won't be as good as the first one, just because the first one just took my heart, took it, pounded it, grounded it, and pounded it. But regardless, this is a movie I could rewatch again and again. I loved it so much. Would highly recommend. All right, so that is my journey through Koreadathon. Again, I'm so sorry it's so late, but hey, better late than never. And I just wanted to talk about the books that I read and how much I enjoyed them. I think, let me see, 5. Was this one a 5 star? Let me see. Let me flip through my journal. Yeah, so all of the books, with the exclusion of Edinburgh, were 4 or higher stars. I loved them all. And I found like what I really enjoy about these Koreadathons and Canadian Readathon and Asian Readathon and things that focus on a certain culture is when you read the books, I feel like you get little snippets of how the normal world is instead of just like a biography that just gives you info. It's just like you see the characters interacting in the world that they call normal, and I really enjoy learning about that and seeing how life is in other places, and I love it so much. Well, thank you all for watching, and let me know what y'all read for Koreadathon, if you read any of these books and what you think and all that stuff. I love to discuss. I will leave my Twitter because I do Twitter now. Yeah, I do the tweets. I'm learning. So I'll leave my Twitter and my Instagram in the description so you can check those out if you'd like. If you'd like to talk to me about books, because I always enjoy book conversations. Alrighty. Well, thank you, and y'all have a great day, alright? Bye.